Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak Up Sis Talk Show. I am your host, Angel Charmaine, and this is the place where authors, especially Christian authors, have an opportunity to share their stories through their written work in order to inspire you to open up your mouth and share yours. I welcome all of you into the space tonight, those of you who will be coming into the room, and those of you who are watching this on replay. Hey, how you doing? Make sure you hashtag replay and let us know you got an opportunity to catch us. So I've got a special guest here with me. I know you all see her. She's lovely, isn't she? This young lady reached out to me summertime about her book, and your girl dropped the ball because y'all know how it gets sometimes. And when I realized it, I reached out to her and was like, look, I want you to come on the show. Let me make it up to you, give you an opportunity to talk about your book. So tonight I have invited Nicole D Vic into the space to share with us a little bit about who she is and her debut book entitled Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson. Welcome, Nicole, to Speak Up Sis Talk Show. How are you doing?
I am doing so well. Thank you, Angel, for the invitation. First of all, thank you for calling me a young lady. First of all. Second of all, it is okay about dropping the ball. We are in the middle of a global pandemic, and global and pandemic is kind of an oxymoron, but it's a lot going on right now. So there's a lot of balls that are dropped halfway. It's okay. So we are good, and I'm just so glad to be here with you today because I've been watching you on Instagram and seeing all the wonderful work that you're doing. So I'm excited, and I don't believe in, dropping balls. It all happened the way it was supposed to happen, and that's why we're here. So
yes. Hey. Thank you for grace. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So if you will, please tell our Speak Up Sis listeners and our audience a little bit about who is Nicole Vic.
Sure. So I am a lot of things, and I know that's probably very common amongst us Black women, us sisters. We are a lot of things. I'm a mother, of course. I'm a resident of South Central Los Angeles, born and raised here. I live right down the street from where Nipsey Hussle's store was. So just to give context on where I am a public health professional. I work on this pandemic. I'm working on it all day, every day. I am an educator. I teach college students about public health and social justice. I'm a civic leader. I sit on boards. I sit on commissions. I am a fashion and style influencer. I work on making plus size women feel comfortable in their skin and dress for themselves and not spend a lot of money doing that. And I'm a whole bunch of things, but I'll just stop there because that's a lot. But I'm really happy with everything that has been going on in my life, even despite this pandemic and all the things that have been going on. But also, I forgot to say, of course, I'm an author. I did write my first book and released it last year.
Woo, 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 woo. We're excited about that part because that is exactly why we are here tonight. And you're so right. As women, and yes, as Black women, we sort of carry the world on our shoulders, not because we want to, but because that's just how it seems to happen for us. But let's say you do it very well. You make it look easy.
Thank you. Thank you. I try.
So everybody, the way that I first saw Nicole was via her fashion. Let me tell y'all. The girl got style, and y'all know me, I keep it pretty basic most of the time, but she's so colorful and warm and inviting. Her style is jazzy. Sometimes it's a little comfy, sometimes it's a little, formal. I mean, it's beautiful. So if you're into that, make sure you all connect with her and her via her Instagram, because she puts it out there for those of us who are, what they call us, full-figured or voluptuous or whatever they want to call us. right? So she shows out for us. So make sure y'all connect with her in that space. We have a few people in the room, so I want to make sure that we let them know we see them. Mary, how you doing, sis? It's good to see you. She's one of the authors on the bookshelf.
Oh, wow.
Latoya, hey, she's another author on the no, Latoya's not on the bookshelf, but she was just on our show last week. And Tashura, how you doing, sis? It's good to see you in the space as well. So let's go ahead and get into pushing through, finding the light in every lesson. What made you decide you want to write a book? Because you got fashion, you're also in another industry that has nothing to do with fashion or being an author. So what made you decide to write a book?
So at the time that I decided to write this book, I had just turned 40, or was already 40. And I felt like 40 seemed like a good age to stop and look back. Like, I'm here. How did I get here? And really to think about all the things that had happened in my life that created the Nicole D Vic that is here today. And there were also some things that were happening at work. I had been in this meeting, and there was this, like I told you, I work in public health, and I'm in this meeting, and there was a slide on a PowerPoint presentation that said something like blacks fail in every single system in society, education, housing, da 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 da. Now, it's shocking to you. I'm used to seeing that kind of stuff in my field because we understand the impact of racism on the health of community. So it wasn't a new concept, but I had a very emotional response to it at work. And that's where it was like, hold on now. This is above and beyond me. And I need to talk about this double consciousness that I sit in. I am a professional. I understand it. But dag nagged, I'm a black woman. And you talking about my people, you talking about my mama, my cousins, the neighbors. This is above and beyond and bigger than me. And so it was turning 40 and just coming to terms with a lot of things at work that really kind of made me think I need to finally go and sit down and tell my story.
Okay. So what is your story?
Well, I have been through some struggles and some journeys in my life. And I think that a lot of us as Black women have had similar stories of teen pregnancy. I started college at University of Southern California, this big school, pregnant. And used and was told, why don't you take a leave of absence? And I'm looking at the advisor like, are you crazy? Why would I do that when I know that this is my ticket to economic stability for my child? You're not going to tell me to do something different than what I know to be true. And so that's where this whole idea of pushing through came into being, the title of this book. Because when I had a book coach that helped me stay on track and got this book done. She made me fill out a questionnaire, and she said, tell me about the different things that have happened in your life that are of note, that are notable. And then one of the questions was like, why are these things important to you? Or why is this significant? And I said something like, I have always been proud of my ability to push through, to do things when others have doubted me or have told me they could not be done. So me walking on campus, not even knowing I'm pregnant, and finding out some months later and having her 8 weeks early on a Wednesday. They send me home from the hospital on Friday. She stays there for 3 weeks. I go to church on Easter Sunday and I go back to school on Monday.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, why are you here? And I'm like, why not?
Yeah. I have goals. I have things to do. And especially she's here now. She's here now. Ain't no more playing.
Right. And it's so funny. She'll be 24 years old in a couple of weeks. She could have been a statistics. We know that Black women have high infant mortality and maternal mortality rates in this country due to the impacts of racism. So my book is really about sort of the realities of my life, layered over the public health stuff that I know about because I went to school for public health. So concepts like infant mortality, social justice, why my neighborhood looked this way with all these liquor stores. But when I cross over to the other side of town, you don't see no liquor stores. You don't see no marijuana dispensaries. Why? So my book is layered with all of those things, life stories, coupled with a lot of the social justice themes that I've encountered in my professional life. And it's really an interesting way to think about telling your life story.
Yes, yes. So I love to sidebar just because I can. And when you just said that Black women have high infant mortality rates, automatically it made me think of another conversation I had with a man who he and his wife's daughter was premature. She was like 6 months, but it was a girl. And to hear what you just said, coupled with what we also know, that little Black girls thrive as preemies. Like if you put any other kind of baby together as preemies, little Black girls survive. They
wow.
It's the stat, right? Yeah. But then to say that Black women have a higher infant mortality rate. So it's like we fight harder to be here,
yeah,
and then lose our babies before everybody else. That to me is profound.
It's devastating. And I don't think people realize the extent of it. Again, putting my public health hat on, you know, the stuff that I learned in school, the things that I do all day at work. We are taught, for example, I'll give a quick example because I can really get real deep and it's going to be like, girl, we ain't got but 30 minutes now. We are taught in public health that education is what's called a social determinant of health. And all that means is that people that have more education typically have a longer life expectancy and are healthier. Now, are there people with doctorate degrees that smoke cigarettes? Yes, of course. But when we look at large chunks of data over time, we see the more education you have, the better your life expectancy and the healthier you are. That does not ring true when it comes to infant mortality for Black women. A Black woman with a college degree or higher has a worse chance of having a premature baby than a white woman with a high school diploma. So in this instance, for Black women, her being smarter and more educated does not protect her from the impact of racism, structural racism in this country. I'm not talking about I don't like you because you Black. I'm talking about that structural racism, whereas your employment, you're paid less. Your housing is more expensive. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about structural racism. So we can go all the way, we can go down that street real good if you want me to, because it's a lot.
So what I want to know, because now you got me in. I'm in, and I'm gonna try to make sure we stay at 30 minutes, but I'm all the way in, okay?
Yes.
So what I want you to explain to the people who are watching, hey Valerie, how you doing? I'm glad you joined us tonight. And if you all have questions for Nicole, please, it is so okay for you to ask her, okay? And if you just want to comment or something, feel free to do that. So what I would like for you to share with all of us is how you coupled your career, the statistics, what you know with your life. How did you couple you pushing through with the information from your career? How does that work in your text?
Sure. So I think the first thing I'll say is that for me, my job is public health, but it is also the frame in which I see the world. I see everything through a public health, social justice frame. So I think that's part one of the answer to your question. It's not hard for me to do because I literally see the world that way. I'm always looking at, hey, what's going on with this injustice in this community? Or why is it that George Floyd died? What does that mean? Or when he was murdered, what does that mean in a larger public health context? So I tend to see everything that way anyway. And the way I wrote the book, I started out in my childhood and talked about all the things that I had experienced, the protective factors that I had experienced, being raised with my parents raised me, but my being around my grandparents and my great grandparents, how much of a blessing that was, not just because I got the wisdom from them and was able to be around them and go in their house and see all the Ebony and Jet magazines, but also from a public health perspective, I had someone to watch over me and take care of me. I was not a latchkey kid.
Latchkey kid. So,
right?
I was a latchkey kid. And for those people who are younger than us, because these nowadays, I don't even think they use that term as often, because it was a big thing back in the 80s.
Yes.
It was huge. So if you will, please just explain really quickly, what is a latchkey kid? Because I was going to ask you to explain protective factors, because that may go over people's head, right? So share.
So a latchkey kid, you know, there was a lot of factors that came into play in the, like you said, in the 1980s, where prior to that, there was always a situation where one income could support an entire family, right? Maybe it was dad most of the time, and you know, in that time it was dad went to work somewhere and he had enough, his paycheck was good enough where mom could stay home and take care of the kids. That's just the way it was then. When the 80s came around, things shifted. There was the advent of the single parent household, or the fact that two parents had to work to maintain the house. And so that left a situation where kids getting out of school, who was coming to get the kids from school? Like, mom is at work, dad is at work. Or if it's only one parent household, that one parent had to work. There was no one else to take care of that child. Grandparents probably weren't retired yet and still were working. Like, nobody can make this happen. And so the latchkey kid was the kid that had to get themselves home from school, get in the house, cook, or however they were going to eat, and kind of entertain themselves until the parents got home from work. And that was a phenomenon that was really big in the 1980s. And as you said, I'm sure it still exists now, but we just don't really refer to it that way. We now have cell phones and parents can check on their kids a lot more. So it's a little different. We didn't have that back then. I didn't have no cell phone. Did you?
No. And there were other things happening during that time, when I remember the incident in Atlanta where people were stealing kids and stuff like that, right? So you remember that. So it was a big thing. And so you went in the house, you stay in the house, you don't call, you don't answer the door, you don't answer the phone, that kind of thing. So yeah. So you're saying in your book, as you share your stories, you bring in, you sort of examine your own life through the lens of a public health person.
Yep. Same thing when I talk about my schooling, where I went to school, and we compare and contrast. My book coach thought it would be a great idea. Compare and contrast. Talk about the difference between your schooling and the other kids in your neighborhood. I went to parochial school for a lot of my early years. Elementary school, I did go to public junior high school, but then I went right back to parochial school for high school. So we compare and contrast those types of things as well. I talk about social issues such as the LA riots that happened in 1992 and the impact that had on my life at that time as a junior high school student, as a teenager, and was able to even examine it as an adult from a public health perspective. So all of those things that happened to me, I'm able to just kind of tell the story, but then also layer in some of those concepts and ideas. And I think I feel like it was a really compelling way to help people understand what public health is. And then of course, when I get into the talk about my career, I really do dig deep into, this is what public health is. And this is why, dang, I'm over here in Compton, and I see this, but when I drive over to Malibu, which is also in my service area, which is way over in the beach, I see these things. And why are these things so different? Why are these things like this? And that conversation is discussed in the book as well.
Okay, so just I do this all the time. I think y'all may want to check this book out. I think you just may want to get a copy of Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson, because to me, I think this is a very interesting way to examine some of the social injustices we have, help people have a better understanding of health and social justice as it pertains to all of those things. I think it's a really good way to have people examine. And I also think, not sure if you've done this or not, but I think this is probably a great way to invite even your colleagues and people who are even above your pay grade to be able to see it in real time, to get a better perspective of what the numbers are saying from someone who understands it. I think sometimes when people who sit in those arenas, they look at the statistics and then they hear someone like me talk about it, the thought is, well, you don't really understand, public health. So maybe if you understand it, then you'll understand, and maybe you'll get a better idea. And so the person feels like you didn't hear me. Yeah. Because you think I'm ignorant. So you don't hear me. And I think coming from someone like you, who's knowledgeable, you're an expert in that area, you understand the stats, you understand what they're saying. And at the same time, you're able to say, hey, I'm a part of this community. And so I think this is the type of book that helps to bridge gaps.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And the other thing I think that's really important about this book is towards the end of the book, I do talk about something that's really important to me, which is building community, right? That, that often is the answer to a lot of the issues that are discussed in the book, that we as women, because the book is for women, have the power and the opportunity to create community, and we don't have to wait for permission to do so. We don't have to be a millionaire. We don't have to know everything. We can sit right here where we sit right now and do something to make a difference. And I have done it with a pop-up shop, which again is not public health related. It's related to fashion and beauty, but at the same time, it is all connected. And I think that's the actual moral of the story. All of it is connected. If I can have a pop-up shop in my backyard and bring in Black women business owners, charge them $55 vendor fee, they bring all their stuff, and I invite people, that is creating a situation where we have economic opportunity in South Central Los Angeles. And people in the community can come and recycle their dollars. That dollar that they spend on that one vendor stays with that vendor, and that vendor will recycle it. It doesn't leave. You want your money to stay in your community and not leave. Oftentimes our money goes right out the door. We go to one Korean-owned beauty supply. That money has left, it's gone because it's not coming back.
Nope.
That money's going to where they live over there.
That's right. That's right.
So you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to be smart per se, whatever that means. You just have to take your skills, what you know in your heart that you can do, and just start where you are, period.
Start where you are, period. I love it. Now you speak in my language, because that's Speak Up Sis. It is community building. And one of the foundational principles for this particular platform and this business is that conversations build resiliency. And one of the things that we just don't do anymore, which I think is one of the things that make us look a little disjointed, because we're innately community oriented people who are now saying, I don't need nobody. And that's not even who we are. Right. Right. And so you've got a lot of depression and anxiety, and you've got a lot of, self-harming and all those things, because we're missing community. We're authentic, genuine, real conversations and community building. And so I'm with you like 1,000% on this. Mary says Start where you are. Love it.
Yes.
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 Yes. You do
Absolutely.
not have to have it all together.
No, just do it. And I think that if you make the mistake, as far as I'm concerned, you've learned something. Oh, okay, I won't do that again. Now I know I can go this way and do it this way again. I just started doing those pop-up shops 3 years ago, and very small, but people would still come out, and I'm like, that's great. And the vendors loved it. They always ask me when the pandemic happened, they're like, how are we going to keep this going? I said, look, y'all, I work for the a local health department. I can't be in the backyard of the pop-up shop in the middle of a pandemic now. Come on now. But let me tell you again, what happens when you do stuff and you just do it. I got approached by a local organization that focuses on Black women. It's called Black Women for Wellness out here in Los Angeles. They said, hey, we want to do something for small business Saturday. That was back in November. Can we still do a pop-up? Let's try to figure out how we can do this and make it happen. Do you know they connected with an organization that does COVID testing, and we had a drive-through COVID testing pop-up shop where the vendors were lined up along the cars. He said, we're going to do this. And they asked me to help them.
Push through and find the light in every lesson.
Yes.
I mean, that is, to me, that exemplifies the title of your book. At the end of the day, everything that we deal with, there's something to be learned. Find the light in that thing.
Yes, absolutely.
And make it happen right where you are.
Exactly.
Exactly. Regina, how you doing? It's good to see you in the space as well. She says, wow, awesomeness. It looks like you're a hit in the Speak Up Sis community. God bless you, sis. So listen, I want to ask you, because our time, those 30 minutes go so quickly, right?
I know, like, wait a minute.
We just started. I want to ask you, what do you think is maybe the biggest lesson that you've had to sort of search for the light in? Like, this thing is dark, and Lord, I don't know if it's a light in that, but you found it.
I think it was the whole teen pregnancy. Her dad and I, we didn't make it. He has 2 other children. This was 20 years ago. But just that whole struggle of, what do I do now? Trying to deal with custody issues, trying to get through school, failing classes, going to court, having to miss class. All of that was really, really rough. And it's so funny because now, 20 years later, it's like it never happened. It's like, it's a distant memory. She has a relationship with her father, as she should. And I will have to say that my parents were very instrumental, and his parents too, in making sure that everything worked out. My mama was like, go to school, I will watch your child. And how can I ever repay my mother for that? That was worth so much, because again, me being able to finish school allowed for me to be where I am today. There were people along the way that guided me through that process, but ultimately it started at home, where mom said, you know what? Yeah, this wasn't the ideal situation. Leave her here, go and do what you got to do. And that's what I did. And so I had to do my part, because I had to go on and finish up. But I think that was really the hardest part of my life that just jumps out. Number one, that was rough. I don't wish that on nobody.
Trust. You had your first child going in. I had mine coming out my senior year, my last semester in college, right before student teaching. I went into student teaching in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the Bible Belt of Georgia.
Wow. See, hold on now.
A big belly and no husband.
They was looking at you like, girl.
And my advisor said the same thing. Why don't you, because she understood that it's possible with student teaching. I don't know what it's like now, but back then it was pass or fail. Mm-hmm. There's no grade. You get an S or you get a U.
Yeah.
And I believe my advisor understood the weight of where I was going to do my student teaching what the world was like. I don't think people nowadays, young people, don't really get it. It's like, I should be able to do what I want to do and whatever. But there was a time when being unwed as a teacher or as a professional,
yes,
as a professional, it was not okay. And it was frowned upon. And doors were shut in your face, So I totally understand having parents say, we're gonna help you through this. And I know, just listening to you in terms of your grandparents and your parents, I'm seeing light in it for those who are watching who have children.
Yeah.
Listen, we've got to get to a place where we stop telling our kids, figure it out. You got yourself into this, find your way out.
No.
Right. No. At some point, we got to stop that.
We can't continue to set our kids up for failure. Look, this is the way I see it. The universe, the society in this country already got it set up for us to fail already. We already are set up behind anyway. So why would we as a family, as a community, further make it harder for our children? My daughter, look, when I die, because she swears I'm not going to ever, but I will, you straight. Okay, you're going to be fine because I already didn't set it all up. You good. Why would I set her behind the ball so that she's struggling? Why would I do that? If I have in my power to make it different for her. And it doesn't even always have to do with money. Talk to your kids about everything. When I'm not here, you need to do this, or this is how you write a check. My great-grandfather taught me how to write a check when I was a kid. My great-grandmother said, you're going to go to college, right? When I was little. And to this day, I still feel like I need to go get a doctorate degree because she said, yeah, because I want you to be Dr. Vic. That was 40-something years ago that she said that, and I still remember it. But you have to have those kinds of conversations with your kids, and don't assume that they're going to figure it out, because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know. Girl, I'm telling you, it sounds like we have such a very similar life. Even my stepdad, I call my dad, but my stepdad, he's still walking around here expecting me to go get a doctorate too. I'm like, look, I'm done with school. So, who knows? Who knows? There may be a Dr. Vic and a Dr. Wright somewhere in the making. Who knows, right?
Yep.
I want to say thank you so much for coming into the space. You're absolutely right. There are no mistakes, no happenstance. This was a perfect time, perfect conversation. And I want to make sure that people know how to access your book. I do invite you to take a look at Speak Up Sis bookshelf and possibly have your book listed on the bookshelf with us. But until then, you all can access her book by visiting www.isawanbookstore.com. It is a Black-owned bookstore in LA. Did you say, is it in LA?
It is in LA, but they will ship. So if you go on that website, look up my name, first and last name, the book will come up. I figure, of course, the book is available on other platforms, but let's support Black businesses and keep these Black bookstores open. So if you go there, it's right there. Boom. And yeah. Thank you so much.
No worries. No worries. So listen, everybody, please check out Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson at www.isawanbookstore.com. Okay. And so would you like to leave one final nugget for the people before we're out of here?
I just want to say thank you. And again, the whole idea of starting where you are, I think is really valid and important. Think about what skills and talents you have, because you have them. You either the cook or the hairdresser, the makeup artist, the leader. You're the one that everybody always calls to do something. Think about what those skills and talents are and just start where you are. Think of something that you can do to help somebody in your community and just do it. Don't even ask, wait for somebody to tell you. Just get started and get moving. That's the only way we'll be able to rebuild our communities and get that social structure together that you were talking about earlier. That's a public health concept. People don't realize that. That's social connectedness, and networks are a public health concept.
Wow. Look at there. Y'all heard it from the expert. Y'all heard it from the expert. I'm trying to help your health around here, getting you to connect and speak up. So just so you know. All right. Thank you so much, author Nicole Vic. We appreciate you for coming on to Speak Up Sis Talk Show and sharing your work as well as yourself and all of your wisdom with us. And with that, I'm going to say good night, everyone. Thank you for watching Speak Up Sis Talk Show. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and this is the place where authors, especially Christian authors, have an opportunity to share their stories through their written work in order to inspire you to share yours. Y'all have a beautiful night.